feel like I'm at the doctor's office. I'm Dylan Broda.
My name is Mika Hämäläinen, aka Mike Fashion.
So my name is Norbert. I'm 42 years old. I come from France, as you can probably hear it.
I am from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I grew up in quite a big city.
I was born and raised in Finland, in a small town called Heinola, which nobody really knows.
With a pretty big family, actually, and I have 3 younger brothers where we played Nintendo, we even had an Atari, all that kind of stuff, and beat the crap out of each other, filming weird basement wrestling.
I grew up in a small village in north of France, very close to Belgium. Grew up nicely, nice environment. I made my way up to the French army after school, where I enrolled for 6 years, allowing me to travel for a while, learning about myself and others.
I had a pretty normal childhood, ordinary, well, at least my standards. And that I was in my preteens and a teenager in the 80s. And the small digital handheld games came in then, like Donkey Kong and everything. And they were a big deal back then. So, of course, I wanted to have one, like everybody else did.
I went to an art school in Toronto, Claude Watson School for the Arts, and eventually I studied music in college, drums and percussion, and I toured around Canada first, from coast to coast many times, all the way through the States, eventually forming a band with my brothers called Reverse Grip, and we went to Japan, Australia, South America, Europe, the whole 9 yards, the whole world, basically. Didn't make any money, but it wasn't about that. It was about experiences and, I guess, learning about yourself, and just, it was an amazing time that I get to share with my actual brothers. And that touring around the world, it brought me to Finland. And here I have been for almost 10 years, and now I'm sitting here in what will be, very shortly, Super Bario.
After that, I decided it wasn't really my thing, just like a little mistake in my path, and decided to just change work, basically. That's when I decided to study photography. So that took me a year. It was a very nice experience, and I think it kind of like came along with my need or my will of traveling and discovering the world. So I then started to travel a bit. Decided to go to Australia for a year. That's where I actually met the woman at the time that made me move to Finland. Probably, yeah, the reason why I'm here. So after a few years in Finland, now 10 actually, here I am.
I started to make music when I was really young. I started to write songs when I was already 13, 14, and so on and so on. And then I graduated when I was 18 and moved away from Heinola pretty much straight away. Because the great thing about living in a small town is that you have the urge to move away immediately when you have the chance. And I wanted to see the world. When I was 23, 24, I think, I had the idea that I need to see the world. Helsinki is too small. So I thought I moved to London. London was a good thing because everybody seemed to, it was easy transition to go there. The language was, you know, easy to sort of, well, everybody knows English. And I moved there. And I didn't have any plan. I didn't have any plan to what I was going to do as work, what I'm going to study. And I knew some people there, so it was, I had a place to stay. And it turned out to be 7 years in London. I studied fashion design. I graduated from Central St. Martin's College, the infamous college, if you could say so, John Galliano, Alexander McQueen and so on. And worked, part-time jobs while I was studying. It was one of the best 7 years in my life. I had to work hard, but especially when you're younger, you have the energy to do, impossible things. Not to say that I wouldn't have now the energy to do impossible things. I have even more drive now to do impossible things. But yeah, and then after 7 years, I thought, I think I need to come back home for some reason. Seeing the big city, seeing, the crazy life. And I came back to Helsinki. And I thought I'm going to, go on with the career in fashion. It was great in the beginning. I met some interesting people and it was, good sort of going and everything. We had parties and worked sometimes as well. And I was actually working as an assistant to a photographer. After maybe 3 or 4 years, I kind of found that it wasn't my thing after all. I don't want to sort of talk bad about fashion business, but the people were a bit funny in some ways, and so I decided that maybe I need to do something else actually. I didn't have the passion after all, 7 years in London studying didn't go to waste because there was a blast, so it was a 7-year party. And I went to do a franchisee with Fafas chain. Now, of course, everybody knows now that what's happened to Fafas, but I have to say that it was very interesting and educational 3 years. It was like a business school, but a better one, because you get to learn everything that they don't teach you in school about business. So I think I learned during those 3 years, I learned pretty much everything that you can do in restaurant business, including everything from recruitment to administration to working in a restaurant. So even that went tits up with everybody in the chain, and but I'm in a way grateful, because that was an excellent school, in fact. And now we are moving, onwards and upwards. So here we are in 2023 and opening Super Bario, and exactly where I have to be, in my opinion.
So, what is the thing that makes you a nerd?
What makes me a nerd?
What makes me a nerd?
Well, I am quite a huge nerd for basically this reason right here. Huh? Uh-huh. This is Bret the Hitman Hart, WWF superstar, and my childhood hero growing up, a pro wrestler, if you don't know what that is. I watched that since I can remember. My grandmother took her best friend to Maple Leaf Gardens to watch Maple Leaf Wrestling and beat up the bad guys with their purses as they went down to the ring. And my grandfather, he worked in the Maple Leaf Gardens with that, building the ring and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been such a huge part of my soul since I can remember. And I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. And when I was kind of growing up and learning music, or what was I going to do, I kind of figured, well, I'm not big enough to be a pro wrestler. They're Hulk Hogan, 6'4", 200 centimeters or something like that. And so I'll be a musician, a drummer. And I did that. And then when I moved to Finland, I met Jessica Love, amazing pro wrestler from Finland. And she introduced me to the Rebel Starbuck, Michael Maialati. And he's born in Canada, trained at the Hart Family Wrestling Academy. And so I thought, what better time in my life when I was 38 years old at that point to start learning how to be a pro wrestler. So not only do I love pro wrestling and know everything about it, and there's a lot of people who can tell you that I've had a podcast about pro wrestling, I have done Instagram stuff about pro wrestling, and I am a pro wrestler, a real deal pro wrestler. And now I have wrestled in 7 countries, over 60 matches, and I have actually gotten paid to do it, if you can believe that. So I even have thumbtack scars on my arms right now. So yeah, I love that shit, and that makes me a big, huge nerd, for sure.
Well, I've been playing my whole life. I've been playing video games my whole life. My mom used to own a kind of like a bar restaurant in Belgium, and I think that's where I got in touch with my first arcade machine. I was probably like 6 or 8 years old, and I put my hands on Street Fighter 2. Wow, what an experience! And yeah, of course, I had like small consoles, Atari, and little things that my uncle would lend me. But that was not really real video game in a way. It really started when I put my hands on a Street Fighter 2. Immediately asked my mom to buy me a Super Nintendo, which she did. I had amazing parents. I have amazing parents. And then ever since, I never stopped playing. Gaming is my life. So that's mostly why I'm a nerd. Then, of course, with gaming came, well, the subculture of it, anime. I grew up in the 80s, so of course, Dragon Ball and all that stuff. That just, yeah, kept pushing me to dig science fiction movies. I mean, the 80s, what a time. So I guess, of course, gaming makes me a nerd mostly, and everything around is based on gaming for me. Video games is definitely it. Yeah.
I had to really long and hard think about that because I'm, too cool for school, I have to say. But I did find something. Music has been in my life since when I was a teenager. And I have a couple of big influences, one is David Bowie. So David Bowie is way too cool, so you can't sort of link to that kind of nerdy things. But then I have another big influence have been in my life in a way through music, that how you look at life and how you should do art and culture is Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa may be quite sort of unknown artist and person to a lot of people. They've heard of it, but they don't know who he was. And why I find that that could be my sort of nerdy thing is that he was a very cool artist, but I thought that how he sort of approached what he was doing, and in a very sort of particular way. And he was a workaholic, first of all, and the music, what he was producing, he approached it in a very sort of meticulous way. And and the thing is that he never, which I loved about him, that he wasn't your particular, he wasn't your usual rock star that would, the image would be the most important thing. But he just wanted to produce music, and he did it in a way that he would pick on notes and he would pick on keys, and the musicians who would play with him would have to be very particular, and that would be the sort of nerdy sort of approach to it, in a way, I think. Because if you think about David Bowie, who I think in a way is the opposite of, and which image was very important, Frank Zappa really didn't care how he looked, and everything. So he was just a nerd about the music, but that nerdiness in him producing music, wow, what music he produced. Oh my God. So we're just lucky that we had him and we can have his music, you know. Suggest to check him out, definitely if you haven't.
The Super Bario has been in my life for the last maybe roughly 2 years, one and a half years. I met Norbert at a job that we kind of both fell into because of Corona times. We lost our normal job, and weird coincidence, I guess. Norbert was just always talking about this gaming bar. It's gonna be awesome. He's gonna do it. He will do it. And I just thought, oh, it sounds like such a cool idea. What about if you had chicken wings at your bar? You know, I make this hot sauce. Why don't I make the hot sauce for your chicken wings at your bar? And then eventually we rolled and shot ideas every coffee break, lunch break, just talking about Super Bario. And then Norbert just said to me one day, why don't you come and meet my business partner, Mika? And maybe you want to, you know, join us on this insane adventure. And I was, yeah, sure. At the time I thought like, we're just talking. It's a cool idea, but how is it ever going to happen? And then I sat down with Norbert and Mika, and we kind of all felt the weight of this whole thing, and how like, holy shit, we have to do it. And then we spent a lot of time and a lot of patience, and it was like, for me, it was like going through a video game. You start at the first level, you beat that boss, and then it's like, ta-dang! All right, you've achieved this goal, but here comes a new challenger. And then you have another thing. Right now, we're literally at level 99, and maybe we beat the game at level 100 or unlock a whole new stage. But I'm into this because this is part of a dream that I didn't know I had, but it fit that. And I met these guys that are incredible human beings. We get along so well. The ideas flow so nicely. I feel free. And yeah, that's why we are opening Super Bario right here. Why are we opening Super Bario?
Okay, so when I was a franchisee with Fafas, I had this French guy, Norbert, come in to actually work in my restaurant. And then we started talking about, well, he started talking about an idea he had. And I was like, yeah, okay, all right, okay. And then he came, you know, a couple of more times to work in the restaurant, and he talked more about it. I was like, okay, we could talk more, And then we did after, I think it was then after months after, and then we met. And once he started to sort of, you know, convey the idea to me, I was like, okay, there might be actually really something here. I started to get excited that, okay, this is fantastic. Because I have to say that one thing which I learned again from Fafas is that I have to say that, you know, about business, that having a great idea obviously is a key, you know, to doing something great. So we talked with Norbert a little bit more, we met a few times more, and he totally convinced me. And he didn't have to convince me. I was convinced from get-go, really, that, you know, yeah, this is fantastic. Let's do it. And I sort of, I found myself getting excited, because just to sort of building together with Norbert, and then Mr. Dylan Broda as well came along. Then I met him, you know, the crazy wrestler. Yeah. So we as three make such a team that I'm sorry to say, okay, I'm not sorry to, not sorry being sorry. How does it go? So we as a three, we are such a team that we are unstoppable. I just realized it at one point when we started to sort of bounce ideas and everything, and what we all do in a different sort of fields and specialities, what we have and everything. Then I thought that maybe not, any of us couldn't do it alone, but as a team, we could, do this because we are so strong as a team. So I'm just, I think, at the end of the day, I'm very lucky to be part of this. Very lucky.
Yeah, that's a good question. Uh, um, I've been so I've been working in Finland in the majority of my time in restaurant business, food industry. I used to be a manager for Fafas. Uh, Great time, amazing company at the beginning. I met countless people. I grew in that company, becoming a manager after only a couple of years, um, and then it got kind of like old, and I grew tired of the whole thing, the whole mentality, the whole business, whatever. And I just felt deep inside that I need to do something for myself. Like I cannot keep going like this, building somebody else's dream. I need to build my own. And I really didn't know what to do. I came here without any education, any specific background, really. I kind of built myself in here into that industry, becoming a manager and understanding that I'm really good actually at teaching people and such. So I started to think about it, like what can I do? What would be actually the thing that will put whatever I am and whatever I want to do together? And then of course gaming is my life. And I thought, what if I could actually open a business that would use video game as a more than just a gimmick or a product, but as a real core of the business. And suddenly, I don't know, one night in bed, I just thought, hey, what if I open a bar and you can play video game in that bar? And I thought about it because I knew it exists, or it existed already, like in Japan. And this is an old thing; it's not new at all. It's like 20 or 30 years old. But I thought about it, and in Helsinki, there's nothing like this. So I slowly started to believe in it, that I can do something. And years after years, designing the thing in my head. It took me actually 5 years to come up with something good enough. So yeah, I think that's the reason why I started to think about it and to plan opening Super Bario. It's to basically combine what I live for and to try to share it and to make it as a unique experience.
I'll ask you one more thing, just because it's you and you are the father of the school. Where are you sitting right now? And tell me what that means to you.
I'm sitting right now in something that I would never thought possible, the train factory. This is basically the first location that Mika and I, or more like I first, like just walked around on my own and saw the place, saw the building, saw the potential. I saw the spirit. I thought immediately like something is going on here. We need to be here. And I just walked in Corona Bar and asked, hey, how can I get actually a spot in here? He just gave me a number. He said, call that guy. And I was like, okay. And I called that guy, and here we are. A year and a half, almost 2 years after. A lot of patience, a lot of it. But here we are, in the first place that I ever prospected to establish Super Bario. And can't really believe it. It's better than a dream. Look at this shit. Unbelievable. So yeah, this is the place. This is the one. And yeah, let's make it.
Great. Okay. Do you want to say anything else?
See those eyes so green. That's it. Is there anything there we can use?